Somewhere on your property right now, there is probably a coil of black garden hose sitting in the sun. It has been sitting there all morning, and if you walked over to it right now and let the water run out of the end, it would scald your hand before you could pull it away. That is not a quirk. That is not an accident. That is a physical principle so reliable, so consistent, and so completely free that an entire industry spanning $60 billion a year has spent a century quietly making sure it never crossed your mind as a solution. No solar panels, no gas, no electricity, no monthly bill. Just black rubber and sunlight doing something that every major civilization on Earth figured out independently long before the first gas line was ever buried under a street. The water heating industry has one foundational requirement for its own survival. You must never realize that the sun already does this for nothing. Let that sit for a moment. Then let me show you exactly how deep this goes. In 1891, a Baltimore tinsmith named Clarence Kemp built something that should have changed everything. He was not a scientist. He had no university funding and no corporate backing. He was a man who worked with metal for a living and who paid close attention to how things actually behaved in the physical world. He painted a metal tank black, enclosed it inside a wooden box with a glass top, filled it with cold water before dawn, and by early afternoon, the water inside was hot enough to cause serious burns on contact. He had not connected it to anything. He had not burned a single cubic foot of gas or drawn a single watt of electricity. He had simply given the sun a dark surface to work against and let thermodynamics do the rest. He called it the Climax solar water heater, and he began selling it door to door across the American South. By the turn of the 20th century, over 1,600 of those units were installed in Southern California homes alone. Entire neighborhoods were running hot baths, washing dishes, and doing laundry without sending a single cent to the gas company. And the gas companies, watching their revenue projections dissolve in real time, understood immediately that what Kemp had built was not a product. It was an exit door from their entire business model. But Kemp was not the inventor of this idea. He was simply the man who happened to package it at the wrong historical moment. In Japan, communities had been heating communal bathwater for centuries, using dark wooden barrels set in open sunlit courtyards. No fire required, no fuel consumed. Persian engineers before them had carved passive solar water channels into dark stone, delivering warm water to entire settlements without combustion of any kind. Ancient Egyptian households used shallow clay basins filled each morning by servants and heated to near scalding temperatures by the desert sun before evening. Roman bath complexes, some of the most sophisticated engineering achievements of the ancient world, deliberately routed lead supply pipes across sun-exposed stone terraces specifically to preheat water before it ever reached the underground furnaces. Every one of these cultures, separated by geography and centuries, independently discovered the same relationship between dark surfaces and thermal energy. The physics they were exploiting has never once changed, not in 2,000 years, not even slightly. A dark surface absorbs solar radiation and converts it into heat. Water inside that dark surface absorbs that heat. The longer the exposure and the darker the material, the hotter the water gets. There is no mechanism to patent, no process to license, no component that wears out or needs replacing, which is precisely why the moment centralized energy infrastructure became profitable, this knowledge had to be systematically removed from public awareness. The campaign was not loud or dramatic. It did not announce itself. It worked through building codes, professional licensing structures, and the quiet rewriting of trade curricula, and it was devastatingly effective. Through the 1920s and 30s, natural gas companies lobbied state legislatures across America to reclassify passive solar water heating methods as non-standard under residential plumbing codes. That single bureaucratic label was enough. A licensed plumber who installed a passive solar system in a jurisdiction where the method was coded as non-standard risked losing the certification that represented their entire livelihood. So plumbers stopped installing them. Then the trade schools removed solar thermal methods from their training programs entirely. By the 1950s, an entire generation of professional plumbers had graduated without ever encountering the concept in any formal context. The name Clarence Kemp, once known across California's suburbs, had effectively ceased to exist in professional memory. When the oil crisis arrived in the 1970s and millions of Americans desperately searched for alternatives to gas and electricity, almost nobody remembered that the answer had been demonstrated in a Baltimore workshop 8 decades earlier and practiced in one form or another for 2,000 years before that. The erasure had been that complete. Now consider what actually happens inside that black garden hose on a warm afternoon. A standard 50-foot black hose in 3/4-inch diameter holds just over a gallon of water. In direct summer sunlight, coiled on a dark surface, that water reaches between 120 and 140 degrees Fahrenheit within 2 hours. The United States Department of Energy officially recommends setting home water heaters to 120 degrees Fahrenheit as the safe upper threshold to prevent scalding injuries. Your garden hose, in July, meets or exceeds that threshold using no energy source that anyone can meter, bill, or interrupt. A research study conducted at the University of Arizona measured temperatures inside black polyethylene tubing under direct desert sunlight and recorded peak readings of 152 degrees Fahrenheit. The researchers explicitly noted that these temperatures were achieved with no reflectors, no insulation panels, no pumps, and no electrical components of any kind, just black tubing in the sun. The average American household spends between $400 and $600 every single year heating water. That represents roughly 18% of the total home energy bill. Across a decade, a typical family of 4 will transfer between $4,000 and $6,000 directly to gas utilities and electric companies for a function that a coil of black rubber sitting in available sunlight performs without any ongoing cost whatsoever. The water heater manufacturing industry in the United States generates over $28 billion annually from hardware alone. Add in the gas utility fees, the electricity consumption, the installation labor, the annual service calls, and the maintenance contracts, and the total economic system built around delivering hot water to American homes exceeds $60 billion per year. Every single dollar of that $60 billion depends on one thing remaining true. You must not know that a garden hose does this for free. You cannot patent sunlight. You cannot build a subscription model around a physical principle that has existed since before recorded history. You cannot charge a monthly maintenance fee on a coil of tubing with no electronics, no moving parts, no filters, and no components capable of mechanical failure. The business logic for erasing this knowledge was not complicated. It was cold, clean arithmetic. And it worked for nearly a century. Here is how to build the system right now using materials available at any hardware store for a total investment of between $1 and $8, depending on what you already own. Start with a standard 50-foot black garden hose in 3/4-inch diameter. The cheapest option on the shelf is exactly what you want. If only a lighter colored hose is available, wrap the entire length in black electrical tape or apply 2 coats of flat black spray paint, available for roughly $2 a can. Coil the hose into a flat spiral and place it on any surface that receives unobstructed direct sunlight for a minimum of 4 to 6 hours daily. A south-facing roof section provides ideal exposure, but a concrete patio, a dark wooden platform, or a sheet of plywood coated in flat black paint performs nearly as well. The key variable is surface color and sun exposure duration, not the specific structure underneath. Elevate the coil at least 3 feet above the outlet point where you want hot water delivered. Gravity moves the water from the heated coil to your outlet without any pump, any electrical connection, or any ongoing energy input. The elevation differential does the mechanical work for free. Connect the inlet end of the hose to your outdoor spigot or a gravity-fed rain barrel using a standard hose fitting. Connect the outlet end to whatever delivery point you need. For an outdoor shower, a basic shower head adapter costs less than $5 and threads directly onto the hose end. For a camp kitchen or wash station, a simple ball valve gives you flow control for under $3. Fill the hose, close the outlet, let the coil sit in direct sun for 2 hours, then open the valve. On a clear day between late spring and early fall across most of the continental United States, the water temperature at the outlet will be between 120 and 140 degrees Fahrenheit. That is a full hot shower produced entirely by sunlight hitting a rubber hose. The complete material cost of that system is a fraction of what a single month of gas-heated water costs the average household. A conventional tank water heater installation runs between $800 and $2,000 up front before the first drop of hot water flows. Then it costs between $40 and $60 every month for the gas or electricity to keep that tank warm 24 hours a day, whether anyone uses the water or not. Over 5 years, the conventional system costs several $1,000s to purchase, install, and operate. The garden hose system costs $8 maximum at the hardware store, and nothing after that for as long as the hose lasts. There is an honest limitation worth naming clearly. This system is a seasonal and climate-dependent tool, not a year-round replacement for conventional water heating in northern climates. In deep winter, in states where sunlight hours are short and ambient temperatures stay near freezing, output temperatures will fall well below useful levels. This is not a weakness to hide. It is a physical reality. But even in moderate climates, a system like this can realistically eliminate 60 to 80% of annual water heating costs by covering the entire warm season demand from late spring through early fall without any conventional energy input at all. In consistently sunny climates, the coverage is even higher. For off-grid use, overlanding, van life, backcountry camping, or any situation where grid infrastructure is unavailable or impractical, this is not a partial solution. It is a complete one. Unlimited hot water anywhere the sun reaches, at a system cost that rounds to zero. What is worth reflecting on when you reach the end of this particular history is not anger at any single company or industry figure. What is worth reflecting on is the mechanism itself, the way that economic incentives, building regulations, professional licensing structures, and trade education quietly shape what knowledge gets passed forward and what knowledge gets allowed to fade. Nobody issued an official order to forget Clarence Kemp. Nobody signed a document declaring that Roman solar preheating channels should be removed from engineering memory. The forgetting happened through the slow accumulation of financial pressure on every institution that might otherwise have kept the knowledge alive. Plumbers stopped learning it because it was coded out of their professional standards. Homeowners stopped asking about it because no licensed professional would recommend it. Hardware stores stopped marketing toward it because the product that enabled it cost $1 and generated no ongoing revenue. The knowledge did not disappear violently. It was simply denied oxygen, systematically and patiently, until it stopped circulating on its own. That process works on far more than solar water heating. It works on any solution that is too cheap, too simple, and too independent to generate the recurring revenue that industrial systems require to justify their own existence. The sun has risen every morning for 4.5 billion years. It will rise tomorrow. And when it does, a black hose full of water will do exactly what it has always done, exactly what Clarence Kemp demonstrated in 1891, exactly what Roman engineers built into their bathhouses 2,000 years before that. The physics have never needed defending. They have never needed a marketing budget or a lobbyist or a line in a building code. They simply wait, patient and unchanged, for anyone who bothers to look.